I found myself in an arrivals lounge for the newly deceased. And everything felt normal until I made a decision. I thought it was the right one. But it turns out it wasn't. By now things had started to pick up pace. So one of my oldest and closest friends, Drew, he used to work with me, and we share an alternative view of life as such. We view things in very similar ways. He's someone I feel like I've known many lifetimes, not just through this one. And it's like we're walking the path together. So I trust what he has to say when it comes to these things. And he said he used to be visited by these beings in his out-of-body experiences called the Epinar. And he described them as being made of coruscating light, and then they would take human form. And this particular night, he'd gone to bed and he'd slowly drifted into the out-of-body state. And he said one of these beings came through. It was like a tunnel of light, and she formed into female form. And she had a message for him to pass on to me. With that, she put her palm on his chest at the heart centre and told him to do the same when he delivered the message to me. And the message was that I'd be going through an emotionally turbulent time ahead, and that I should remember what I came here to do. A little while later, I was sat at my desk at work, and I was just getting on with some work, some bits and bobs, and one of my employees came in, and she came over to my desk and she was just chatting, and there was nothing unusual about that as such, but I realised something was. She was actually dead. A little while previously, she'd been diagnosed with breast cancer, and she'd been taken off of work for a little while, and shortly afterwards she'd died. And I realised this as I'm speaking to her, and I've instantly become aware that I'm not in the physical world. And we're just having a chat, and I'm struck by the normality of it. And I just sort of say to her, so what's it like to be dead then? And she just sort of shrugged her shoulders and went, yeah, it's much like it is when you're alive, really. It was a short-lived experience, but it was something that held a deeper message which I was beginning to understand. Not long after that, I found myself in an arrivals lounge for the newly deceased. And what struck me was the solidity of the surroundings there. It felt so physical, it felt so normal. I was sort of there as a role of steward, to kind of help people acclimatise to their new surroundings. I don't know who'd put me in that role, but that was the role I found myself in. And it was a feel-good vibe. It was like a party atmosphere. It was like a hotel lobby, but it was very ornate and beautiful, and it was sort of very welcoming. And people were socialising, and they were having a drink, and they were having some food and stuff like that, and I was talking to some of them and just chatting, and it was a very social event. It was nice. And then I noticed at the corner of my eye, there's a chap going around. He's a thick-set chap in his 60s, and he had a black leather coat on down to his waist, and he had a black leather hat on. And his name was Salt. And I noticed something about the way he moved. It was a little bit strange. He had like these traces behind him, as if his body was lagging behind as he walked. And they were kind of translucent, and they would meld back into him when he stopped, but they'd follow behind him. And I thought this was rather strange, but instinctively I knew what it meant. It was like it meant that he needed to be moved on. It meant that he shouldn't be in that area, and he needed to be moved on, and he needed to be helped. And with that, I didn't think about it, it just happened. I turned around and I flew towards him, and I linked arms with him, and I dragged him up into the sky. And as I flew up into the sky, I flew towards this bright white light. And it was very bright, but with no physical eyes, there was no dazzle. And as we got closer to it, Salt was sucked away from me, and he was sucked backwards into this light. And I just remember him looking at me as let's say, what are you doing? Why did you do this? And he's sort of like got this real perturbed look on his face as he's dragged into the light as if he had been sucked into it. But I knew at the time I'd done the right thing, or I felt I had. And then I flew back down into the arrivals lounge, and everyone was pretty upset with me. They didn't like what I'd done. And I knew I'd done the right thing, but they were browbeating me. You need to go and find him. You need to bring him back here. And I thought, I know I've done the right thing. I know he's gone to where he should be. But because of their browbeating, I started to hesitate and I second-guessed myself. And I thought maybe I should go and try and find him. And with that, I flew out of this place and I flew all into these different levels of space through different layers of light and tunnels. And I was looking for him. I was honestly looking for him to try and bring him back, but he was gone. Once he'd gone into that light, he was nowhere to be seen. And I came back to the arrivals lounge and I told them, I'm sorry, but he's gone. He's gone to a better place anyway. It was where he needed to go. I realised they weren't upset with me because I'd done something wrong. They were upset because they didn't realise where I'd taken him. And in turn, they didn't realise where they were. They didn't realise the state they were in. It's like they hadn't realised that they'd transitioned. They didn't realise they were deceased. And this was a pattern I started to recognise about this space. And I came out of the experience, but I remembered what Drew had said to me. Remember what you came here to do. At the time I didn't understand it, but looking back on it now, I think this was the first time I started to realise what I was there to do.